In this competition through 6 meets, and the young American team is in fine condition to challenge the Cubans today. This is Reno, Nevada, the biggest little city in the world, and a good boxing town. Earlier this year, Reno hosted what turned out to be Sugar Ray Leonard's final fight, when he KO'd Bruce Finch in the 3rd round to retain his welterweight championship. Today in the same Reno Convention Center, it's Cuba, the #1 amateur team in the world, against a rapidly improving United States team. Hello again, everybody. I'm Don Chevrier, and welcome. The Cubans have set 5 reigning world amateur boxing champions for this meet in Reno. The United States, though, has 2 world champions of their own. Of course, we all know about this young man, now in the U.S. dressing room getting ready, Mark Breland from Brooklyn, New York. He won the welterweight crown on the Worlds in Munich, was named the outstanding boxer of that meet. Mark's bout is one of 11 we'll present coverage of on the USA versus the World in amateur boxing today. But later on, we've got a special treat for you in Wide World of Sports. Coming up, a battle of the super heavyweights. This crowd waiting to see them in action. The Americans represented by the reigning world amateur champion, this man, Tyrell from Philadelphia, who won the Worlds, but in the championship in Munich did not face the 3-time Olympic gold medalist from Cuba, Teofilo Stevenson. That's the man he has to contend with today. And it's coming up next, super heavyweights on Wide World of Sports. Those on the West Coast will see the bout at 5 Pacific time. The United States improvement has been dramatic, losing 11-1 to the Cubans in February. The U.S. in the World Championships finished second behind Cuba, and then in the North American Championships that followed, the United States finished only 1 point behind the Cubans to gain second place. All right, let's bring you up to date on the action so far today here in Reno. The 106-pound division, the most experienced member of this U.S. team, 27-year-old Israel Acosta from Milwaukee, who's boxed the Cubans many times and only likes to box internationally against 17-year-old Rafael Sainz, one of the up-and-coming young members of the Cuban team. They exchanged blows throughout the 3 rounds, but in the end, the judges felt that Sainz had landed more in the scoring zone. And by the judge's decision of 4-1, the American judge dissenting, the decision went to Rafael Sainz of Cuba. So the Cubans take a 1-0 lead in this dual meet, and that brings on the 112-pounder, Jesse Benavides of the U.S. and Omar Santiesteban of Cuba. The Cuban is the Central American boxing champion. He's been boxing for 8 years, a veteran of U.S. Cuba-Dual Meets in the past. Benavides is a southpaw, and the ring here is small, 17 feet inside measurements. That is not what Jesse Benavides would like to have going for him. The referee is Bob Wimberly of the United States. The first round underway. The white area of the glove is the scoring area in amateur boxing. 5 judges decide the outcome. The referee intervenes, as Wimberly does here, to quiet down one of the corners. And he will come on more frequently than you'll see a professional referee do, but he has no say in the outcome. Benavides just turned 19. He is the reigning 82 National Golden Gloves and Sports Festival champion. A good blow coming through there. Jesse likes to move in the ring, but could be handicapped by the small dimensions. He takes a chopping right from Santiesteban. The Cuban, the World Cup and North American champion from 1981. And in this first round, Jesse's backing up too much, perhaps. Santiesteban coming on very aggressively. The United States determined to show improvement over Cuba here today. And Wimberly steps in with a caution against Santiesteban. Under these amateur rules, if he turns to the judges, a point can be taken away if indeed the judges agree with the referee and infraction did occur. No point taken away there. Also, standing 8 counts can be ordered by the referee for the safety of the fighters. If in the official's opinion, while he's taken a tough enough blow, a severe enough blow, they'll stop it and count him to 8. Benavides looking more tentative now against Santiesteban. Santiesteban flicking out the jab, failing to follow through with the right, takes a chopping left. 2 of them from Jesse Benavides. is coming on now in round one of this 112-pound flyweight bout. Another good right by Santiesteban of Cuba. He's forcing the pace, taking the action to Jesse much of the time. Jesse wades in with a left hand, trying to confuse Santiesteban. Remember, Benavides a southpaw. Left jab scoring repeatedly by the Cuban. Benavides blocking those blows, ducking out of the way of the looping left hook from Santiesteban. Now in the closing seconds of this first round, scheduled for 3, no question Santiesteban has been the more aggressive of the two. Back with you for round 2 of the flyweight bout. Cuba's Omar Santiesteban appeared to have the edge in round 1 over Jesse Benavides of the United States. Jesse lives in Corpus Christi, Texas. Benavides more than willing to mix it. Santiesteban, the more aggressive and the heavier puncher of the two to this point. Good chopping right thrown by Benavides to southpaw. A caution to Santiesteban from Bob Wimberly, the American referee. Wild uppercut. Benavides missed with. Moving around his small ring better now than he was in the first round is Jesse. Wimberly stepping in again to caution the Cuban fighter. And now he orders another break. Jesse ordered back to his corner, the indication a low blow in the eyes of Wimberly. The officials at ringside, the judges, can accept that or reject that on the scorecard, but theoretically a point can be taken away from Santiesteban. Wimberly, by the way, in the first bout, the light flyweight class, was the only one to go for Acosta, and by a wide margin at 60-56. He lost at 4-1. Again, Wimberly, front and center. Another low blow. That did not look bad. Kind of a mixed reaction from the crowd because nobody certainly was outraged by any low blow thrown by the Cuban, but the action goes on. Conceivably now, Santiesteban could have lost 2 points if the judges accept the opinion of Mr. Wimberly. Blood showing now from the nose of Benavides. A good right coming through. Santiesteban chasing Jesse around the ring more than ever. Santiesteban with the edge in the first round, assuming control here in the second round as well. However, he has the possibility of having lost 2 points on low blows. And that could be very expensive. Jesse's timing off as Santiesteban slips to the canvas. Wimberly has him dust off the gloves. Into the closing seconds of round 2, and it's been a strange one in the flyweight division. Santiesteban with the edge, certainly in the bout. Jesse at the bell with low blows. In the first round, this was a caution issued to the Cuban fighter. Looked to be right on the belt. In the second round, another caution. No real problem there. Then 2 warnings, which could result in 2 points being taken away. Here is the first one. All right, could be a low blow there. And the second one, which again, remember, results in a point being deducted conceivably from the Cuban fighter, wound up being blocked by the left arm of Jesse Benavides. So Wimberly maybe a little over-enthusiastic about calling fouls against the Cuban. One for sure, the second one was not a low blow. We'll be back with round 3 right after this. Ready for round 3. Santiesteban of Cuba, aggressive in the first round, overwhelming Benavides. In the second round, Benavides coming on a little bit better, but needs a big round here. Those very questionable low blows may or may not be taken into account by the judges at ringside. Unless this fight ends earlier, they're the man who will decide it. And decide on the penalties, if indeed there are to be penalties against Santiesteban. They did not appear to be warranted, certainly one of them. Jesse, more aggressive now, has had trouble forcing Santiesteban to back up, and again it is Jesse moving in reverse gear, as he has been throughout so much of the bout. Trying to stay at long range against Santiesteban, who is older, has considerable experience. He's 24. Benavides, the southpaw, just 19. Santiesteban lost on points in the World Championships to Michael Collins of the United States. Benavides floods him with a chopping right hand. His best blow of the round so far. The crowd now is aroused as Benavides puts on a rally against Santiesteban. Santiesteban walked into a right hand there. Another right by Jesse Benavides of Corpus Christi, Texas. Benavides won his last international bout against Wojtek Komasa of Poland, but is working oh so hard here to impress the judges in the final minute of this one. Yes, he cannot take for granted those 2 points have indeed been taken away in the eyes of the judges. He's got to prove his point in the ring in the time he has left. Down to the final 30 seconds of round 3. Good crisp combination by Benavides. Undoubtedly, Jesse's best round of the 3 right here. Just seconds remaining now in the bout as Jesse slips, dusts off the gloves. One more exchange. And that will do it. Round 3 of the flyweight division. So, the system of judging, the system they are using in Reno here today, consists in each bout of 3 neutral judges and 1 from each competing country. That is Ulysses Rodriguez, the judge from Venezuela, compiling his card. Francesco Morales from Argentina. Billy Carl Schmidt from Guatemala. In this bout, Emilio Santiago of Cuba. And for the United States, the judge is Ed Urbick. Now the question is, did they take those 2 low blows as directed by the referee into account?
The decision in favor of the United States,
And Jesse Benavides wins it on merit, because only 1 judge accepted both alleged low blows issued by the referee. 2 disregarded them altogether. And so on points, Benavides scores a big victory, and his best round indeed was the 3rd round, as he comes up with a bristling uppercut using the left hand. And Santiesteban certainly felt that. Later in the round, the Cuban walks into a good right thrown by Benavides. Jesse, with a big finish to win it, is at ringside with me now. Jesse, you had to have a good 3rd round, and boy, you sure did.
Yeah, I felt that we were even after 2 rounds. I felt he had the first and I had the second. And the 3rd one was going to be all up to whoever had more left, whoever more heart left. And I just went out there and I fought, real hard, even though I was kind of pretty tired, but I knew I had to have it, so I just went all out.
Were you surprised they took the 2 points away? How low were those blows?
They were hitting pretty, not really all that low, but, it was below the belt. And I'm glad the referee did, see him, because a lot of referees don't, just let them go. And we had a good referee up there, and he went good. I felt pretty good up there.
You look good in that 3rd round. Congratulations on a fine win.
Yeah, I'd like to say hello to my family and to Rhonda also. Hi.
Okay, you just saved yourself a phone call. Terrific.
All right, thanks.
So Jesse's win makes it 1-1 on the scoreboard. Cuba and the United States. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Yes, against Ernesto Delis of Cuba. Delis with an edge in the 1st round. Both southpaws. Both youngsters, just 18 years old. Delis and Shannon here just turned 20. Lives in Edmonds, Washington. He was a member of the Olympic team of 1980. Of course, did not go to Moscow because of the boycott. Delis is the bronze medalist in the World Championships, the World Cup, and in the North American Championships won a silver medal. The referee is Romero Santiago of Cuba. And we've watched previous bouts with Santiago officiating. He tends to get into the act very frequently. While the edge went to the Cuban in the first round, these two appear to be very well matched. Shannon extremely aggressive. Shannon beat Zapard of Poland in his last international bout. Has a good deal of international experience. And Santiago into the act again with a caution directed toward Robert Shannon. Good right thrown by Shannon. Flush in the face of Delis. The Americans battling the Cubans on even terms so far. Remember, Cuba wiped out the U.S. 11-1 in February of this year and has not lost a dual meet to the Americans in the history of such events. This is the 7th between the two countries. Shannon rocked, lost his balance as much as anything. The Cuban turned away. The referee allowed the bout to go on. Shannon between the ropes. And finally, Santiago, normally is there on time, was late getting in and issues a standing count, which the crowd doesn't like, to Robert Shannon. He really lost his balance and got tangled up out of the top strand of the ropes. Not hurting anyway. Holding caution again to Shannon. He has not yet cautioned the Cuban fighter. The referee is from Cuba. Good snapping right thrown through by Shannon. About 2 minutes gone here. Now there's a caution for holding to the Cuban. Shannon, with a good start to this round, is giving ground now. And now he is taking a point away for the use of a low head. Blood on the face of Shannon coming from his nose. Officials try to prevent butts by low heads coming in, but in this case, Santiago appeared to be a little over-anxious and moving to take a point away, which again, as you've seen, the judges can accept or reject as they see fit. Shannon, a good chopping right hand. Takes a right. Coming after him now, just seconds to go in the round. At the bell. Shannon gave a good account of himself in the final 30 or 45 seconds. But again, he's got to be concerned about the possibility of having a point taken away. The warning went out to the judges for Shannon's use of a low head. He was cautioned for it. This time drives the head into the midsection of the Cuban, and we'll see how the judges view that. Remember, Shannon has a point taken away already. He must put on a spirited attack here in the third to win this one and the bout if he is going to. He's aware of it. Cubans and the Americans in these first three matches extremely well matched. Some blood from the mouth of the Cuban Delis now. We've seen blood from the nose of Shannon. They both paid the price. Here's a stunning left hook. And the referee cautioning Shannon as Delis was really off balance for a moment there. Shannon tried to draw him in to catch him coming in with a punch. And does so right there, and down he goes. And the field is cancer. Delis will take the 8th count on a quick knockdown by Robert Shannon here in round 3. We still have 2 minutes to go. The American corner has been told to sit down. That very conveniently, it would appear, gives the Cuban more time to recover. And And he pulls Shannon off now, and Shannon gets an 8 count. He got hurt on that exchange. The referee calling an 8 count there, which did not appear to be justified. But now has taken 2 to Shannon. 1 legitimate knockdown Delis has suffered. And it's doubtful, but this fight is going to end the decision the way they're going right now. The head again. Low in the opinion of Romero Santiago, the Cuban referee. Of course, the knockdown is something for the spectators to see and something to boost the confidence of the man who knocked the other guy down, but they don't count in the judge's opinion. Shannon, a little weary at this stage, is giving it all he has here in this final round. Again, a caution about the head, and yet the referee has not gone to the officials for the point deduction. Less than a minute to go in this bristling featherweight bout. Shannon keeps on coming, as tired as he may be. The Cuban mixing it with him, throwing a good left hand there. Shannon trying to take this man out, has had him down once already, tries to hold him in the corner. The Cuban warned about holding by referee Santiago. Blood around the nose of the Cuban fighter Delis now, and Shannon just takes the attack to him. He hurt him that time. Another chopping left by Shannon, the right to the body. Less than 25 seconds to go on the round, and Robert Shannon's putting on quite a show. He cautions both of them. This is giving the Cuban fighter a little chance to catch his breath, but Shannon has him walk right into a good right hand, missing with the left. There's the right coming through again. Inside 10 seconds now. Shannon will not be able to take this man out, but has put on a tremendous effort in the 3rd round at the bell to end it.
Shannon scored the only knockdown of the bout in the 3rd round. Let's have another look at that now. Kind of a strange knockdown in a way. Shannon took the action to his Cuban opponent in the round. I think won that 3rd round. Fell behind on the first 2. Delivers the right hand. And then the Cuban's feet get all tangled up, and down he goes for the count of 8. And it comes to a decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, by a ballot of 4-1, the winner representing Cuba, Luis Delis.
Delis wins it for Cuba. That warning had no bearing on the outcome. 4-1, the judge's decision for the Cubans. And now Cuba has a 2-1 lead in the dual meet. We'll be right back after this.
Bernard Gray from Boynton Beach, Florida, was no match for Adolfo Horta, the Cuban 2-time world champion. Matter of fact, it was all Horta, as many in the crowd expected it would be. Horta coming through with the victory for Cuba, the 3 neutral officials, and the Cuban judge all going by a 1-point margin for Horta. Amazingly, Bob Wimberly of the United States gave a 4-point edge to Gray. But 4-1 on the cards, Horta was the winner. The lightweight bout produced a rematch from the World Championships in Munich. Pernell Whitaker of the United States and Angel Herrera, the 2-time world champion from Cuba. But it was not the match many expected. Much of it sloppy, mauling and brawling through 3 rounds. And once in a while, cheap shots like this came into play. Nonetheless, an upset victory for Pernell Whitaker of the United States, defeating Angel Herrera from Cuba. The Cuban judge to the center in a 4-1 decision. 139-pound Jerry Page of the U.S. from Columbus, Ohio, up against Carlos Garcia of Cuba. It appeared as though Page again was outclassed by the Cuban. A good boxer with heavy punches, especially in close. But partisan judging once again came into play. The American judge, Ed Urbick, alone to center in a 4-1 decision for Garcia. So the Cubans lead 4 bouts to 2. Many in the crowd have come to see this match, the welterweight match, unheralded Candelario Duvergel of Cuba against this man, 19-year-old Mark Breland, reigning world amateur boxing champion, and the young man who was named outstanding boxer at those world championships in Munich. To win the title in Munich, he had to beat one of the world's best amateur welterweights, Sirek Konakbayev of the Soviet Union. What a job Breland did. Long arms of his, keeping the Soviet fighter at bay, waiting for his chance, and then finally moving in, and the opening was there. A thunderous right hand put Konakbayev down. But now, as the top amateur in the world, is the pressure any more for Mark Breland?
Well, yeah, there's a little pressure with that. You know, it's just like saying, well, I got the title now, and everybody's looking after me. When I go out there, I know I have to be in shape because everybody's going to be coming after me to take my title. But The pressure is good because it makes me train harder. And I know I have to be in shape on every bout. So I will be in shape, and I am definitely ready.
So Breland ready to go in his corner for round one of the welterweight bout. And the young man he's up against is fighting in his first international bout, Candelario Duvergel of Cuba. You wonder if the Cubans are feeding this guy to a piranha, or, as so many Cubans in the past have shown us, they don't have to box internationally to be good fighters. They come out of the island country with a lot of skill. But Candelario Duvergel certainly in tough against Mark Breland here, who's long reach. And that fast jab of his comes through time and time again. And Mark goes to work early. Breland, whose definite aim is to win gold for the United States in the '84 Olympic Games, will also be appearing in a movie that should be released in the spring called The Lords of Discipline. A couple of 19-year-olds, one with a big reputation to uphold, Mark Breland. But as Mark will find as his career progresses, there'll be many like Duvergel out to make a name for themselves at his expense. So there really isn't a bout that Breland can afford to take lightly. He's quick, as you can see, retreating out of the way of the punches of Duvergel. Duvergel was the runner-up in the Cuban Junior Championship. He's still a student. But Mark, with a 5-inch height advantage and that long reach advantage over him. The referee is the Cuban Romero Santiago. And he cautions Breland for pushing off. Breland goes on the offensive so much despite his long arms, as you saw there. He leaves himself vulnerable to punches. A good counterpuncher might be able to get to Mark, but he's boxing here with an abundance of confidence. Takes a chopping right from the Cuban, and then gets a caution from Santiago for a low head. I guess if all the rules were interpreted correctly in every bout, the referee could stop for an infraction every 5 or 10 seconds. But Santiago certainly intervenes more frequently than most officials. And here is the Cuban Duvergel coming on now, as we have about 30 seconds to go in the first round. Like others before him, the small ring is not a bonus for Breland. It looks as though he has certainly an edge in the round, but in the latter seconds, the Cuban has been coming on at the bell to end round one. Round two is underway, the welterweight bout, Mark Breland of the U.S. and Candelario Duvergel of Cuba. Breland with a slight edge in the first round. Not an overwhelming one, though, against this young man fighting in his first international bout. Breland felt before the bout that the Cubans were sending Duvergel in to make a name for himself at the expense of Breland if he could do it. So Breland not taking this competitor lightly by any means. Breland, arms held low much of the time, lopes around that ring, changes directions from time to time, constantly on the move. He took a good left there from the Cuban fighter Duvergel. Duvergel's left continues to get through to Breland, who misfired that punch. Again, intervention by referee Santiago of Cuba. Crowd doesn't like that. They've got a minute now into round number two. And so far, Breland far from being overwhelming. Again, moving laterally around the ring. A small ring, just 17 feet here in Reno. For a boxer who likes to move like Breland, that is not to his advantage. But Duvergel has had trouble pinning him for very long. Breland so active with his movement now past the halfway mark of the second round. Mark having trouble solving it. Throwing very few combinations. One punch at a time. The jab, then missing with the right. Ducks out of trouble again. Duvergel appears to be gaining confidence as he goes along. The Cubans lead 4 matches to 2. Breland again jabbing and moving. Now gets a combination on. Gets a good right hand through. One of the few good rights he's thrown in this bout. 30 seconds to go in the second round as Breland continues the assault. Well out of the right eye of the Cuban fighter Duvergel. Nothing serious yet. Took some punishment about 30 seconds ago. Now inside 10 seconds of round 2. 3 rounds, the welterweight bout. U.S. Cuba.Dual Meet in Reno. There's the bell to end the second round. We're ready for round 3 here in Reno, the welterweight bout. Mark Breland certainly has an edge in the first 2 rounds, although not overwhelmingly, against Candelario Duvergel, the 19-year-old from Guantanamo, in his first international bout. Duvergel with a flurry there as the referee cautions Breland for turning his back. Cuffs him a couple of times with short rights. Now they're both cautioned for holding. So Santiago, as always, likes to get into the act. Breland has the far better footwork of the two. Far better reflexes with those long arms, likes to keep it at long range, but takes the odd shot like the right that came through there. One of the few times they tie up inside. There was a damaging blow. The referee will pull Breland off and issue a standing 8 count to Candelario Duvergel. Of course, this is a move designed to prevent injury. The crowd thinks it's significant in terms of scoring. It is not. Except that 3 of them in 1 round, standing 8 counts that is, would end the bout. But that was the best shot Breland got through in the entire fight right there that produced the standing 8 count for Duvergel. Past the midway point of this round, that welt into the eye of Duvergel examined by Santiago. He lets them continue. Maybe giving the Cuban fighter a little bit of time to catch a breather, which he appears to need right now against Mark Breland. He keeps coming at it, takes punishment though, catching punches on the way, and a good chopping right by Mark Breland. The Cuban countering with a right, missing with an overhand right, and caution for holding is Duvergel. Less than a minute to go in the fight. The best round so far for Breland. Catches him again with 2 good chopping right hands. He'll pull him off, give him a standing 8 count for the second time. It is all going Breland's way now. Just 30 seconds left in the fight. Breland now has thoughts of taking Duvergel out. Holding the caution against the Cuban. That'll give him more time to gather himself as Breland wails away now and gets caught into the left arm of Duvergel. 10 seconds to go. Breland missing with the right. But he's been very effective and appears to have gained the points he needs to win it. We'll see. He's being cautioned now at the bell. The time runs through to end the welterweight bout. Here is the first standing count given to Duvergel of Cuba as Breland really began to unload in that 3rd round. Chasing him all over the ring. Sticking out the left and then telegraphing it half a mile away. The booming right comes through and the referee jumped in to give the Cuban fighter a count of 8. Mark Breland's big finish, we expect, is won him that bout. Let's see. He started slowly, worked his way up,
And the judges have a decision in the bout, and it is going to go to Mark Breland indeed, who remains with only one amateur loss against his record. A tough young competitor, Duvergel, in against him, but Breland comes through to win an important victory for the United States in the welterweight match here in Reno. 2 standing counts given to Duvergel. This is the second one. Look at the long arms of Breland, how effective they are as the Cuban gets all tied up inside. And Mark, backing away, still has the reach to come through with the right hand. Set him across the ring with the left following through, and the referee came in to give him the count. Mark, that might have been a good learning experience for you, because this young man was typical of so many who want to come in as unknowns and try to knock you off.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He was very awkward. And see what the problem was, I was training, then I had overtrained, and my body got kind of stale. I felt pretty good today. I felt the staleness coming back, but first 2 rounds was pretty close. And in that 3rd round, I had to pull it out. So.
You had a good 3rd round. In the first 2, though, you took a lot more shots than maybe you thought you were going to take, didn't you?
Right. I see him getting tired towards the 2nd round. And I said, well, the 3rd round, I got to give it all I got. Like I said, I got to defend my title.
Mark's win gives the United States a deficit of 1, trailing 4-3. More amateur. Light heavyweight bout, it was Pablo Romero of Cuba, the reigning world amateur champion in this weight class, against 19-year-old Sherman Griffin out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, fighting in his first international bout. And the experience of Romero paid off. On several occasions, he backed Griffin across the ring and held him there. Griffin in constant trouble. The bombardment from Romero never ceased. And the Cuban, with his experience and talent, went on to win the bout over Griffin rather handily. Another victory for Cuba over the United States. Now it is 6 bouts to 4 with Cuba in the lead. And these are the heavyweights. Elmer Martin of the U.S. Navy against Herrera Baez of Cuba. Martin, who's just 5'7", has 6 inches to give up in height to the taller Cuban. He's the 82 U.S. amateur champion. This man, Baez, won a bronze medal in the recent World Championships in Munich, West Germany. Round 2 is underway. The first round, well, the highlight there, Cuban referee Santiago intervening time and time again. Martin getting more frustrated as that round went along. But look at the advantage in height for Baez over Martin. Elmer almost requiring a stepladder to get up there to hit him in the head. Martin is tough. Lost to Gregor Skretch of Poland in his last bout, and is in far better shape, he tells me, for this one against Baez. Martin is a southpaw. Trying to get those arms of his up to that tall target, and does so with 2 lefts. Now Santiago again. Koshnig with an open glove to Elmer Martin. And now about a head. It's got to be distracting for a fighter. The Cubans in command in this dual meet, but not overwhelmingly as they were back in February. They won 11 bouts to 1. The United States extremely competitive here with this Cuban team. And now a warning goes to the officials about Martin with a low head. They may or may not decide to take a point off. 5 judges, 3 neutral judges from South America, 1 from each competing country. And to say the least, they have been partisan. The American judge and referee aiding the Americans, and the Cuban judge, of course, backing his fighters. Sometimes it becomes all too obvious. Martin having a lot of trouble getting to Baez. Santiago cautions him against flicking out the hand. Mind you, many of these rules are designed to prevent injury. So a fighter doesn't get thumbed. The low head, of course, to prevent butts. We saw Grogan paid the price for that earlier. Of course, from where Elmer Martin fights against Baez, his head is low all the time. Looking up to this tall Cuban, and now articles being thrown in the ring from an increasingly unruly crowd here in Reno. They do not like the work of referee Santiago.
missing with the uppercut. Now gets another caution. That'll likely bring us another shower of debris from the crowd. They have been worked up with frustration over the intervention of the referee, and no one is more frustrated than Elmer Martin of the United States right now, with just seconds to go here in round number 2. Round 3, there's the bell to start it. Elmer Martin has got some catching up to do. The taller Cuban ahead of him, and Martin comes out aggressively. Elmer throwing all kinds of punches, his best flurry of the bout so far. Again, the head is down low, and really, I don't know what choice he has. The Cuban has got 5 inches at least on Elmer Martin. Everything is uphill for him. Tremendous disadvantage in height, and his head is bound to be low. Reaching up and missing once again, and now he will ask the judges to deduct a point from Elmer Martin, and more debris comes into the ring. And there is a caution to the American corner. They were up and screaming, and you see articles bouncing around in the ring as the crowd here is getting very, very unruly. Santiago stops now and pointing back in the direction of the neutral corner for the Cuban. Will discard that beer can that came in. This crowd here this afternoon really not well behaved at all. You can agree or disagree with any official at any time in any sport, but it is foolhardy to be throwing objects in the ring, as these fans in Reno are today. The only previous major bout they had here recently was the Finch-Leonard fight. That didn't last long enough to get them upset, but indeed Santiago and some of the other officials have really turned this crowd ugly. And as a result, Martin has very little chance for any flow or consistency or rhythm in the ring. A couple of heavyweights trying to put a show on here, but having difficulty in doing so. That'll bring more articles in likely, as the caution goes to Elmer for holding. I'm sure he finds the taller Baez a very awkward man to fight in view of their physical proportions. Wades in with a good left. Slams another left up. And Santiago saying, keep the glove closed. It was open in his view. Martin down low again. Has to be pushed away. And house cleaning time for Santiago. It's becoming a joke here in the third round, this heavyweight bout. The crowd trying to steal the show. And right now it's a bit of a bad joke, as a matter of fact. Gets the odd good lick in, reaching upstairs with the left in particular. Now again the caution. And the crowd up and throwing more articles into the ring. He'll send them back to the corner as they try to clean house again. Baez with a big advantage in the bout to this point, and there seems to be no way now that Martin can come back to beat him. He's totally lost all concentration, it would seem. Good shots there by Martin. At the bell finally to end a riotous heavyweight bout. And the situation not made any better by the work of the referee. Now here's Martin getting way down there, coming up under the arm of Baez, and then chopping him from the side with that punch that resulted in the infraction called against Martin by Santiago. With a low head. So we await the decision now.
Ladies and gentlemen, the decision is unanimous, and the winner, Adolfo Baez of Cuba.
Baez winning it on unanimous decision over Elmer Martin, who had to fight a disadvantage in height, and the work of Santiago, the referee from Cuba, in this bout. Another victory for the Cubans. And the crowd here still unhappy with the work of Santiago. Gesturing, still throwing items in the ring. Indeed, the crowd here in Reno, many of them have not behaved very well this afternoon. Many getting a little carried away. Now we see the police surrounding Santiago over on the far side. Crowd still up, yelling, cheering, throwing articles in that direction. They're going to have to make sure this man gets away safely. Starting to make his way around the ring now to this side. But obviously, his work at ringside and in the ring as a referee was partisan. We saw that on the part of American officials earlier as well. As both countries strive very hard, it would appear, to give their fighters the edge. The crowd prepared to forgive the American partisanship, but not the Cubans. That seems to be the situation. Oh, goodness, a fan has thrown a punch now at the referee. He's being pushed back by the police. Santiago took a punch from one of these irate fans, and now the police break him into a sprint. And finally, he arrives in the corridor, which leads him to safety. Down that hall is the Cuban dressing room. A wild finish to the heavyweight bout. Santiago is out of harm's way now. Let's bring in Loring Baker, who's the president of the USA Amateur Boxing Federation. Loring, is this scene here in Reno the wildest thing you personally have ever seen in your years of association with the sport of amateur boxing?
No. Really, we've seen some worse than this. This is the worst one I've seen in recent years. The last time I saw something approaching this was in Charlotte. Oddly enough, when we boxed the Cubans in February of 1980, and oddly enough, the same referee.
Well, yeah, that's the key to it all. The officiating had to have almost everything to do with what went on here today.
Unquestionably, there was some partisanship refereeing and some evidence of partisanship judging, which we wish did not exist. But we would be less than honest if we didn't say that it was very prominent today.
Mind you, despite the officiating, which is often bad, Olympic Games, World Championships, you've seen it, I've seen it over the years, the crowds normally don't know amateur boxing rules that well. They're regarding it as a pro fight. Of course, it's very much different.
Well, it is. Actually, the calls that were being made were not that bad. They were simply what we would call nitpicky calls. And with a partisan crowd, sometimes this happens. It's unfortunate, but sometimes it does.
Perhaps the answer is a complete shift to neutral official at ringside and the referee in the ring. It may help prevent what went on today here in Reno. After 11 bouts at this dual boxing meet, the Cubans hold in the United States. Tyrell Biggs of Philadelphia. You'll see this long-awaited matchup today on ABC's Wide World of Sport. It is no gold medalist Teofilo Stevenson of Cuba and the young man from Philadelphia who won the World Championship in the same meet that Stevenson competed in Munich back in May. Tyrell Biggs. It's the first time Biggs and Stevenson have met. It's a bout that Biggs has long waited for, and it promises to be the boxing highlight here in Reno today. They're approaching the ring right now with a super heavyweight battle. Biggs is on his way in. He's been cautioned by some to wait until perhaps the Pan Am Games of '83 or the Olympic Games of '84 to take on Teofilo Stevenson. But Biggs says he wants him right now. Said he's in tremendous shape and ready to meet the man he would like to have met at the World Championships back in Munich. It didn't work out that way. Instead, Biggs, going on to win the championship, was not able to meet Stevenson, who was eliminated in the quarterfinal round. And that led to speculation as Stevenson makes his way in now that the fine Cuban champion might be through. Might have stayed too long as an amateur. He turned down offers to become a pro back in the late 1970s. Wanted to remain in Cuba. And now his goal is to win a fourth Olympic gold medal, something no one has ever done in the world of Olympic amateur boxing. Tyrell Biggs, challenging Stevenson today, is trying to do what many, many boxers failed to do in the years gone by. Stevenson with an incredible string of knockout victories. He put the best away with his first Olympic victory back in 1972. Munich, West Germany, the quarterfinals. The first big test for Stevenson that year was the American fighter Dwayne Bobick. But in the third round, Stevenson, who laid back to the first two, waited for his chance, finally spotted it, and made the most of it.
And a legendary career was born right there. 4 years later, Montreal, after knocking out Johnny Tate of the U.S. in the final. The victim, Mircea Simone of Romania. Third round, down he goes. A second gold medal for Stevenson. After adding a third gold in Moscow, we come to this year's World Championships at a shocker. Francesco Damiani of Italy outpointing Stevenson in the quarterfinal round. It raised many doubts, but Stevenson says he has none.
No, I think I'm more or less the same as I was before. Of course, with a bit more experience.
After Damiani's win over Stevenson, he might have thought he had the gold medal wrapped up in the World Championships, but it was not to be. Tyrell Biggs outpointed him in the final to win that title for the United States. We asked Tyrell if this has been a dream of a lifetime to meet Teofilo Stevenson.
Well, yes, it's good because not everybody gets a chance to fight him, and through the years, not everybody got a chance to beat him. So here it is. I have both those chances, and it's fun because this amateur boxing stuff is fun, and beating somebody like that is, it would be a great accomplishment in my amateur career.
So this long-awaited matchup of the Olympic champion and the young world champion about to take place here in Reno. A highlight of this day in which the Cubans have certainly defeated the United States, but by no means outclassed them. This man, the cream of the crop, Teofilo Stevenson, 3 times an Olympic gold medalist. Young Biggs, with his first world title just recently tucked away, aiming for gold in the Los Angeles Olympics of 1984. His given name is Tyrell. He's been fighting as Tyrell the last couple of years. So Tyrell Biggs at 22 takes on Teofilo Stevenson, who will become 31 in March. For those of you who watched earlier action on this card, on the USA versus the World in amateur boxing earlier on ABC, a chaotic situation ensued, partisan officiating. The Cuban referee had to get a police escort out of the arena, and a fan threw a punch at him. Fans showered the ring with bottles and cans, but now a neutral man, Ulysses Rodriguez of Venezuela, has been agreed upon to handle this super heavyweight fight. Round 1 is underway. Biggs racing out to meet Stevenson, whose custom has been to lay back in the first round of any of these 3-round amateur bouts. 3 3-minute rounds. The white area on the gloves is the scoring area. The referee has the power to order standing counts if he feels a boxer has taken a severe enough blow. Good rules designed for the welfare of these fighters. Biggs has to be showing Stevenson respect here. A little tentative. Stevenson, as we suspected, laid back as always. His loss to Damiani, the shocker. His first defeat in 10 years of amateur boxing. A veteran of 240-plus amateur bouts. Biggs gaining a little momentum, coming on a bit stronger now. Stevenson, still a one-handed fighter. He'll save the right for its best opportunity. Biggs has quick hands. Mistimed that punch. Good hand speed for Tyrell. Left out. Missed with a second left. Jabbing more effectively now, trying to move around the ring a little better. Tyrell Biggs of Philadelphia. More effective jabbing from Biggs. Stevenson tends to lose early rounds because of inactivity. The action sparse so far here in the first. But of the two, Biggs has scored repeatedly. He has the better of the action. It is not the force of the blow that counts in amateur boxing, but it's contact cleanly into the scoring zone. This bout might have taken place in Munich. It did not. Might have waited till the Olympics of Los Angeles. It's taking place here today in Reno. as the capper to a U.S.-Cuba dual boxing meet. This crowd knows that either man could take the other out, and that's what they're looking for. But so far, Stevenson has had one short right, Biggs a couple of left hands plus his jabs. Nobody has been in danger so far. This is the round they test each other out. The United States cannot win this dual meet with Cuba, but they can certainly get a great deal of pride and satisfaction if Biggs can beat Stevenson. We'll give him a slight edge through round one as the second round is underway at the Convention Center here in Reno, Nevada. Biggs takes a body blow and winces with pain. The referee, Rodriguez from Venezuela, has pretty much left them alone in sharp contrast to previous bouts here today. Flicks the left jab out that connects on the nose of Stevenson. One punch can end it either way. The 6'5" heavyweights, super heavyweight class. You get the feeling you could be watching just the first of several bouts between these two over the next couple of years. As they aim for the '84 Olympics, we could be watching a preview right now. Biggs has had hand injuries over the years. He says they're fine right now. Said he's never been in better shape. And as we pointed out, looks awfully quick in there. A minute gone in round two. Stevenson takes a chopping right, wading in with a soft right to the body. There's the jab coming through again for Tyrell Biggs. Young fighter from Philadelphia connects to the left, and Stevenson walks into Stevenson missing with his right hand. Mistiming a lot of punches now. Biggs' quickness is paying off. He's looking more poised and confident as he goes along, but take a chopping right hand there from Stevenson. Stevenson's best blow of the round. Midway of the round, down goes Biggs, caught him with a chopping right again. Tyrell Biggs is down. Count of 5. He's getting up at 6. The referee, Rodriguez, will have him dust off the gloves, and he will continue. But a short right from Stevenson put him down. Biggs trying to get some reserve energy. Bring himself together again, collect himself. Was surprised as he got in tight, mixed it with Stevenson. Hanging in now with a minute left in round two. The power of Stevenson, even at almost 31, cannot be underestimated. He's still got that dynamite punch, as Biggs found out. Biggs had this first round and into the second round the dominance in the fight, but now it is Stevenson coming on. And he's got Biggs backing up constantly as Biggs flicks the jab out. Stevenson missing with a combination. 30 seconds to go on the round. Stevenson wailing into the body with the right hand. Takes a left jab from Biggs. Those are all good scoring blows in amateur boxing. The force does not matter. In fact, the knockdown is simply a good, clean blow. It means nothing more than that. 15 seconds to go on the round. Five seconds remaining. And it appears that Tyrell Biggs, no, he goes down at the bell. He is on his back, and this could be it. Biggs having trouble getting up. He's not going to be saved by the bell. It is all over. He does not make it. As I was about to say, he will survive. He did not. Half a second before the end of the round, Stevenson scored again, and Tyrell Biggs has been knocked out with a 3-time Olympic gold medalist, 2-time world champion from Cuba, who still got it, Teofilo Stevenson. He hurt Biggs twice in this round. Here is the action leading up to the first knockdown. Biggs turning around toward the center of the ring, and then, like a hammer chop, the right hand coming up from Stevenson. Pow! Down goes Biggs for the count of 8. There were those indeed who wondered if Stevenson still had that big right hand after his performance in the World Championships in Munich. Well, indeed, Biggs found out today, along with his crowd in Reno, that Stevenson certainly has the knockout punch. This man, almost 31 now, consoling a very distressed young Tyrell Biggs. Biggs was hit hard and hurt twice. This was the second one. It came just a second before the end of round number 2. Backed over against the ropes. Stevenson had him all teed up, the jumping right, the following left, and it was all over at 2:59, round number 2. Tyrell Biggs, his head down on the top strand of the ropes, just above us. A very unhappy young man right now, tears in his eyes, because for Biggs, it was such a marvelous opportunity, the meeting with the 3-time Olympic gold medalist by the young 22-year-old American World Amateur Champion. But the old man is still the king of the hill, as Biggs found out. Tyrell Biggs, though, has a lot of boxing ahead of him. He's young. He'll be back. The question is, has he learned from this? Can he benefit? Will it improve his career as the years go on? Stevenson acknowledged officially as the winner. You get the feeling that there will be other meetings between Teofilo Stevenson and young Tyrell Biggs. Feel there was something you had to prove to Teofilo after not winning this year's World Championship?
Yes, I had something to prove because the public is impatient. Many people were saying that I was already finished. But the person involved is the only person who can know. And I've made that judgment, and that's why I'm here now. If I had agreed with what the public said, because many times I disagree with what the public says, they are often guessing, because they can't know better than the person involved how that person feels. Sure, they can tell when someone is in good form or bad form, but they can never tell when someone is finished or whether he just lacks training.
What do you think of Tyrell Biggs, your opponent today?
He's a great boxer, and he moves quite well, quite intelligently. It's no wonder that he's won the World Championship and has won some world-level fights.
Does this prove that Teofilo is back?
Eso prueba que tú estás regresaste, ¿no? No, de eso estoy seguro, hijo. No sé si él...
Never away, right?
Nunca te fuiste.
No, nunca.
Congratulations, Teofilo.
Gracias.
Nice talking with you.
Thank you very much.
Tyrell, tough loss. What did you learn from that?
Well, I learned that, I figured that he didn't lose much. Everybody was saying that he is old and, he wasn't, he just lost all his timing and things like that. But he's still very capable of beating anybody in the world. And it's just that, he caught me with a good shot, and he thumbed me a couple of times, but I don't want to make any excuses. He's a 3-time Olympic champion, and, from his credentials, I'm not supposed to beat him no way.
Did you open up against him maybe a little sooner than you might have?
Well, yeah, I was a little tight going in. I'm so worried about whether I can be strong enough to go 3 rounds. And I didn't put out prior to the fight and warming up. And when I got in, I was kind of tight. So, that affected, my performance.
You will get another chance, I'm sure of that, Tyrell. Keep it going in your career.
Thank you. I'll be back. It's a setback. Everybody got to lose. But, he's the 3-time Olympic champion. And
many have lost to him.
That's right.
Once again, a reminder that the final score of the United States-Cuba competition,
the champion and Bobby Chacon, the challenger, meet for a 4th time. Each has taken a split decision, won a 7-round technical draw. Also today, we'll look back to selected portions of the WBC Super Bantamweight fight between 2 great champions, Wilfredo Gomez and Lupe Pintor. California today for the World Boxing Council Super Featherweight Championship. Rafael Bazooka Limon defending against Bobby Chacon. Hello again, everybody. I'm Keith Jackson. This is the 2nd World Championship fight ever held in the capital city of California. It's a wonderful old building put up in 1926. That other fight was Pepino Cuevas